You know, in the world of medicine, the most dangerous culprits aren't always the biggest. Sometimes they're the ones you can't even see. They get in, they attack, and they can leave a trail of destruction, all while staying completely invisible. Today, we're putting these microscopic menaces right under the microscope. Think about this for a second. What if that nagging, burning pain in your stomach isn't just from stress or something you ate? What if it's an actual infection caused by a tiny organism that has absolutely mastered the art of survival inside your body? It might sound like something out of a movie, but for millions of people, it is very, very real. So today, we're cracking open the case file on two of the most notorious microscopic criminals out there. Now, they're actually related, part of the same family, but believe me, their methods are totally different. So let's meet our persons of interest. All right, here are our mugshots. On the left, you've got Helicobacter, the patient, silent infiltrator. And on the right, say hello to Campylobacter, the fast-acting, hit-and-run attacker. They might just look like a couple of squiggly lines, but don't let that fool you. Each one of these is a specialist in causing some serious human misery. Okay, so here's the rap sheet, a little side-by-side comparison. You can see they're both gram-negative, and they both like low-oxygen environments. But check out the key differences. Campylobacter is fastidious, which is a fancy way of saying it's really picky about where it grows. Helicobacter, though, its key trait is strong urease activity. Now that little phrase right there, that is its secret weapon, and we're going to see exactly how it puts it to work. So let's dive into our first case file. We're starting with Campylobacter, the bad guy behind one of the most common foodborne illnesses on the planet. Its whole MO is to strike fast, hit hard, and then just disappear from the scene. So where does this little bug like to hang out? Well, its favorite hideout is the GI tract of animals, and especially poultry. Yeah, that's right, chicken. This is why undercooked chicken is so often the scene of the crime. Its main offense is gastroenteritis, that awful stomach bug. But it's been linked to a few other problems too. So its connection to our food supply is absolutely crucial to remember. Now, for most people who get hit by Campylobacter, the experience is, well, miserable, but it's usually pretty brief. Your immune system puts up a fight, and within a few days, the whole thing tends to resolve on its own. No antibiotics needed. The attacker hits, and then it runs. But that's not always where the story ends. And this is where things can get really serious. This is the hidden danger. In some rare cases, even after the bug itself is long gone, it can leave behind a devastating calling card. The body's own immune response can get confused and start attacking itself, leading to some awful conditions like reactive arthritis or even Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a really severe neurological disorder. Okay, let's pivot to our second suspect, Helicobacter pylori. If Campylobacter is like a street thug, H. pylori is a criminal mastermind. It doesn't just pass through, oh no. It moves in, it sets up shop, and it establishes a permanent and very dangerous base of operations. H. pylori's chosen hideout is one of the most hostile places you can imagine, the lining of the human stomach. And get this, we're still not exactly sure how it gets there, which just adds to the mystery. But its list of crimes, that's chillingly clear. Chronic inflammation, painful peptic ulcers, and, over the long haul, it's a major risk factor for stomach cancer. So how on earth does it survive in a literal bath of stomach acid? This is where that secret weapon comes into play. H. pylori produces a ton of an enzyme called urease. This enzyme takes a compound that's already in your stomach, urea, and turns it into ammonia, which is alkaline. This basically creates a little protective neutral bubble around the bacterium, a chemical force field, letting it live and thrive where pretty much nothing else can. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of biochemical engineering. Okay, so you have these super elusive suspects. How do medical detectives actually prove that they're there? Well, the lab investigation requires some pretty clever techniques to unmask these invisible intruders and bring them out into the light. For Campylobacter, a huge piece of evidence comes from actually growing it in the lab. What you're looking at here is a special Campy blood agar plate. A lab tech will take a stool sample, spread it on this special plate that's designed to help this specific bacteria grow, and they pop it in an incubator. If these telltale gray to pink colonies show up, bingo, they've got their culprit. Catching H. pylori, though, requires a totally different and honestly an incredibly clever trap, the urea breath test. Doctors basically use the bacteria's own weapon, that urease enzyme, against it. So a patient swallows a small capsule with some special labels urea. If H. pylori is hanging out in their stomach, its urease enzyme immediately breaks that urea down, which releases labeled carbon dioxide. The patient just breathes into a bag, a machine analyzes it, and if it detects that labeled CO2, case closed. The infiltrator's cover is blown. So once the culprits are ID'd, the final step is to bring them to justice. But taking down these two bacteria presents some very different challenges. It's one thing to find them, it's a whole other thing to get rid of them for good. Right? As we've seen, that hit-and-run Campylobacter is usually handled by your body's own defense system. But H. pylori, that thing is a deeply entrenched squatter. It has colonized its territory, and it will not leave without a serious fight. It requires a really targeted and powerful medical intervention. As of right now, there's no vaccine to prevent this infection, so the takedown relies on something called triple drug therapy. Because H. pylori can be pretty resistant to antibiotics, doctors have to hit it with a combination of 3 things at once. It's usually an antibiotic like metronidazole, a bismuth salt, yep, like the stuff in Pepto-Bismol, and another powerful antibiotic like amoxicillin. It's a full-on assault to make sure that this invader is completely wiped out. So at the end of the day, we've got 2 very different criminals on our hands. One strikes fast and flees, the other plays the long game, hiding out for years, sometimes decades, just silently causing damage. And that really brings us to the final unsettling question. With a huge chunk of the world's population unknowingly carrying this silent saboteur, is the real challenge not just treating it, but finding it in the millions of people who have no idea it's even there? It's a case that is far from closed.